Welcome back, everybody. Pastor Dave here. Today we're doing something a little different. I want to catch everyone up that maybe has not been into Bible prophecy, that are seeing the headlines and seeing what's happening in Iran and all around the Middle East, and how the U.S. and Israel and even other nations from Europe are getting involved in this war, and say, what the heck is going on? And people know what really Bible prophecy is a little about. Now, first of all, when we talk about Bible prophecy, we're talking mainly usually in the news, and it's in the news all the time. Israel, more than probably any other nation, is in the news about something happening over there or in the Middle East. And it's because Israel is very special to God. And it goes way, way back to Bible days. Israel is only a nation state that's about the size of New Jersey, not a very big piece of land. And with that little piece of land over there in the Middle East, as people says, it causes more problems, or more things are happening around it or because of it, than any other nation there and probably in the world. But it goes back to the Bible. It goes back to the book of Genesis. Now, in the book of Genesis, creation is covered in approximately 2 books, the first 2 books of Genesis. And in the next 8 books, or chapters, in Genesis, it talks about from that early period of creation all the way to Abraham. And then there's 38 books about Abraham, his family that had developed through his sons, and basically how the nation of Israel developed, and how basically God's plan unfolded to this day. As we see right now, Israel is here. And in that sense, God has focused most of the book of Genesis on Israel, because it is his people and his nation. And his whole prophetic timeline from Genesis to Revelation is really about what plays out through the nation Israel. Now, looking at that in that perspective, then, if we look to the Bible and talk about how much of the Bible in the first book of the Bible, the chapters are mostly about Israel. And secondly, we've talked about the story. You'd think you would cover creation more than that, but creation is only a couple of chapters. And then the 8 chapters about history into the point of Abraham. And then the rest of that book is about Abraham and his family. And if we look at it that way, it's pretty crazy, isn't it? And God sees a very big importance in Israel because it is his nation, his people. And with the life stories of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, you see how the family came together, and from that family came out of that family the nation of Israel as we know it today. Also, Israel is important because of the fulfillment of God's covenant with its founder, Abraham. It affects every one of us. And if Abraham hadn't been called by God to become the father of his nation, we wouldn't be where we are right now as Christians. And the whole world wouldn't have been that way, because through Abraham and his lineage came Jesus. And because of Jesus, God's only son, that's why we have the promise of salvation, because of him dying on the cross for us and being resurrected on the 3rd day. So everything came from back in Genesis down through that whole book and through the rest of the Bible, talking about the Jewish people. Also, you can see the prophetic timetables that God has set up for the whole world playing out through the Jewish people. We know the Jewish people went into captivity for years into Babylonia. And also we know that it was prophesied they'd come back in 40 years. They came back. And so everything God has said would happen to them from one stage to the next has come true. And God's miraculous survival of God's people through what he does shows us one thing for sure. Everything that he says will happen prophetically did happen already, is happening right now, and will happen in the future. That's why it's so important. The existence of Israel really is like Exhibit A, if you're having a case of proof here. And it's saying right there, look what God has done through the Jewish people. He brought them together, the family grew into a nation, and then what he said to them would happen happened. He said they would come back to Israel. He said they would come back as a state and they would return to Israel in 1948. And everything that we see playing out right now today is Bible prophecy from the Lord. So, is God right and truthfully telling the truth when he says something's going to happen? Yes. And when God says something's going to happen, it will happen. And so as we study Bible prophecy, just realize there's some simple truths that hold true from Genesis and the beginning of this earth until the end of time that we're looking at, we're going toward. And God says things would happen, and they did. And we see things playing out right now, one by one, as things come together. And everything else is going to be fulfilled very soon because God said it was going to happen. Next video, we're going to be talking about, do the present borders that Israel have right now really match up with what God promised them in the Old Testament? I'll ask you to look at the Bible and look what God promised them. And in the next video, we'll see what God said there. And until then, keep on looking up. Realize prophecy is from God. Prophecy is true. And that's why if you study prophecy, if you're just starting to study it, it gets more and more exciting because we are living in the end times and the days of the last days prophecy. God bless. Keep on looking up. Keep on waiting and looking for Jesus because he's coming soon. And especially if you're giving your life to him, he's coming for you. Bye now.